Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome. It is Monday night, and we thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. And through the power of AI, we've replaced Cubby with MJ. It's not really MJ. It's not really Cubby. It's AI, and you just can't believe that it is either of them.
Hi, I'm MJ.
He's flashing back to a bad 80s. Bad
80s what was even better was your computer glitched just a little bit at that same time.
I'm trying to look stuff up, so it is glitching a little bit. So yeah, as I get older, I have to remind myself the references that you have to be careful. Some people don't know them. Like one day I tried to reference Donnie and Marie Osmond.
Oh yeah,
and people who?
Well, if they've been to Vegas, though, they probably would have a better.
I don't know. It just was bad.
So in 2014, MJ, you must have started the Rewind reports then.
I thought I joined you guys around 12, but I don't remember when we started the Monday night.
Because I'm looking here, early 2015, you were on episode 28 of the Rewind report at that time.
I did over 500 videos with you guys and still growing. 2 more today!
Woo!
Yeah, two for one. You got some catch-up work to do.
Hey, just when I thought I was out, they brought me back in.
Of course.
Never watched. I have no idea.
Hey, look, there's people in the chat that apparently still know you, so that's a good sign.
There we are. There we go.
Hey, I'm gonna do my Dr. Nick. Hi, everybody.
So in the last show, MJ and I were talking about AI. And for those of you who haven't dug into that or haven't really thought about that too terribly much, it's an in-depth look at AI and what it is, where it comes from, what are some of the tools, and then a little application and such. And then once we finish, then we were talking some of the software and such that is out there. And MJ, kind of let's pick it up right from there, because I've seen that software mentioned in Facebook ads, but that's as far as it goes. So bring us up to
speed.
Do you
fill us in? Do the work for us.
Yeah.
I'm your AI. I'm your AI.
AI synopsis. Let's go.
Say it, Dan. You have to do that. You have to do the prompt.
Yeah.
So we are a bunch of DJs who have not researched these particular software. We would like this synopsis version that can be used and spit out in 5 minutes or less.
Go.
That's beautiful. All right. The one I'm going to talk about is called DJ.Studio. That's the website. But there are others out there. I saw one out a few years ago called something to do with fire. Like there's
Pyro is Serato did that.
Yeah, Pyro kind of sort of did that. We're talking about automated mixing software. Pyro did it. No, Spark was what it was called. That's what it was called. And it was a service to where you could basically have a tablet connected to the internet and playing at your bar and people around the bar. So you're paying for so many hours of use of the Spark software. I don't know if it's still around or not, but I watched an entire demo of this and was kind of amazed. And people at the bar can go onto the Spark app, recommend songs, vote them up or down, and Spark will put them in the mix automatically and really mix them well. Like, I was blown away by how well it was mixing. And this was 4 years ago that I watched this. And the live thing that I watched, they let people live get on the app and be able to vote and do the same thing. So the automated mixing stuff is a part of things that are out there. And like, I know a lot of people will never touch it. But as Dan and I were kind of talking a little bit before, as this automated mixing stuff gets better, there are DJs out there who cannot mix that will gladly take that as a part of their tool to where they can be on the floor engaging with the audience, but still have that music perfectly begin and end where they choose, the songs put in the order that they choose, or have the stuff choose it itself. But DJ.Studio is a software that you can get, and they've changed it in just the past couple of months, because before, like 2 months ago, you could literally mix off of YouTube with it. No joke. Like, pick your songs off of YouTube, and it will play them and mix them. But now it ties into your software. So with Serato, it'll tie into your Apple Music stuff now and all that stuff, and virtual, the different ones with virtual. So you can go off of your library or the subscription services you want. So basically, you can either have a playlist pre-made. Doesn't matter whether you make the playlist on your DJ software or on like the Apple iTunes or not. I keep calling it iTunes. It's not iTunes anymore. That shows how old I am.
Yeah.
No, the Apple thing or whatever you do, whatever the playlist is, that can be brought into this. And it will put the songs in that order or whatever order you change. So there's a couple different ways this software works. So if you've ever used a mixing software like Ableton, to where you have different, what they call channels that you put the songs, put audio in, okay, multi-channel. You're doing that with the songs. So you're putting a song here and then a song here. And what it does is where you decide it, you have multiple choices of how those songs transition. And it does it really well. So if you want to cut to a cut, it will do a cut and a cut exactly where you say on beat. If you want to cut and an echo, if you want 4-count cross beat mix with nothing else changed, 8 beat, 16 beat, whatever you want. If you want the bass on this song, and this is the new song you're playing, and halfway through this bass turn off and this bass turn on, you can have it at that point, bass off, bass on. So it gives highlight to the song that you're going to. You can have a complete cross, you can have a curved cross, you can have where it comes in so many beats and then loops this section 4 times before it mixes out. So you literally have a pop-up there. You click on the 2 songs together, and it will give you these things that you can choose from. And you could say, do that with every song, do that with just this song, do that with the first 3 songs, the next 3 songs do this, or randomize them. And it literally will take all of that and mix it really well. I mean, really well. Because I was throwing stuff in that I went from an 97 BPM song to 134 BPM song, and it made a transition with that. And I would click and change different things like that. But it can do, like I said, it'll take it to a point. And if you want it to echo out at a point, like how many DJs use the echo out? And that's what it does. But it's DJ.Studio, and you can download it and try it and play with it. And I have friends who use it alongside their Serato at weddings, to where they use it to mix for the dinner. And instead of just having a playlist, which you can have, it will mix those songs neatly however you want. Or if you just want to create a pre-recorded thing, you sit in your house, put the things in the order that you want, mix them the way you want, record it out, and now you have that to play somewhere. I have my fan on, sorry. So that's the thing with some of the software and the AI, to where it's getting really good. And like I said, for someone who doesn't have a skill of mixing, this can be added to their repertoire and their business of personality and all these things that can really make something. And people are going to use it for that.
Sure.
Is that 5 minutes or less, Dan?
I think it was like 5:02, but it's okay.
God, just 2 words. Though.
Yeah, just if you used a period instead of a comma. Wait a second. No, that was it. Comma instead of a period. Hyphen. Contractions.
You would
more
pitch
contractions.
yourself up by 0.5%. You would have sped yourself up
the pitch. That was it. I was 2 BPM, a BPM low. Yeah. So God, I'm always a BPM low in life.
No, I think this would be really cool. I've seen the mentions. I think just like John, right? We've seen the stuff on Facebook and different places, and it's just like another software. Like that was kind of my thought. Like I didn't know what it did, and I'm like, I don't have the time to really consider looking into this because I don't need another software. However, hearing what it does, I have the site up on my other screen just in case, like to check this out, just to get some other ideas, because especially what you mentioned, right? Like the cocktail, the dinner. I know the idea of creating it to help create that energy would be done better by having them mixed. But I also know that during those times, I tend to be doing different things, right? Like especially during dinner, and I'm not just eating, but it's one of those things where, like, having that, man, that'd be so much better than just the.
And you literally, as it's going live, if there's a song coming up that you I want to put this song in, you literally can drag the next song in before it starts playing, and it just pops in place with the style of mix you had, and you can change it. Because like I said, as it's coming across, there's a bar there where it mixes, and you click on that, and it brings up just check boxes on how you want it to do the mix. But I thought even that a lot of times you get into a habit of playing certain songs in an order at a wedding. You can if you do those and you don't know how to do mixes, that software can help you put them in the order, make them change about how you want to, generate that out. So during that time of the night, you start that, forget that software, use the software that you use, start that mix that you made on the DJ.Studio, and get out on the floor for a couple of songs with the songs mixed the way you want, the way you're used to doing. And that can free you up to kind of make little highlights during the night, for certain song get-togethers. If you do your line dances together, or shout da, 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 shout going into something else, and it gives you that freedom to step out a little bit if you're the only person, especially if you're a single op.
Or there's emergency opportunities that you have to step away.
Bathroom breaks. Oh my gosh. Yeah. There's nights. There's things that happen. Like I talked in the last video, drunk Uncle so-and-so. Sometimes you gotta deal with things.
Sometimes there's people you just got, but as you're describing the software, there's it seems to be kind of a flashback to a past DJ software that I used, where we used to just be able to take the songs and drop them in there, and you've gotten the segue things all set in advance, so you didn't have to worry about any of those things. All you had to do is basically let it go. Winamp.
Just say it. You used Winamp. It's okay, John. You can admit you used Winamp.
Yeah, that's where I was headed to. So okay, fine. Yeah. You've got, my secret. Oh.
I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, go for it. It's okay.
Yeah, so like I said, all of these things I look at tools. Like I said, when everybody griped about the sync button, it was like, this is the dumbest thing to gripe about. No one on the floor cares.
That ultimately becomes the final judge right there, is that
they're the person who hired you. Like if you're in a club, you might have an owner or manager that they hire you to mix. But for most weddings, they want you to create an atmosphere, a night to remember. And that atmosphere is not going to be created by whether you make every mix perfect, or a machine makes some of them perfect, or a sync button helps you make them perfect. None of that matters. Stop whining. Sorry.
Well, I'm gonna play a card here for a second. That I agree that majority of the people that are on the floor are not going to care, but I do believe that there's a position where, if all that I'm doing is dropping songs in, if all I'm basically doing is creating a playlist,
programmer,
exactly, that the worth that you have is not going to be the same. For example, the same idea of like us having our controllers being more visible, right? Like there for a while, it was like we need to have the facades, right? Because we're keeping everything clean. And then it was like, now we're getting more to the furniture where, it's that showy effect, right? And I think if we get back to like basically not touching the controller, right? Because we're doing a drag and drop type of situation for the whole night, not for certain elements that are maybe more removed from the situation. And I said worth, not self-worth, but public view of worth could be diminished, because why should I pay you 4 figures to do something that I can buy the software and do it myself, right? If that's the only thing you're bringing to the table here,
I encourage people to do that.
Yeah.
DJ waste of money. No, I agree with you. Again, it depends on what you want. So have you ever been to a concert that's opened up by a DJ? Like it's like a vocal artist, a band or something that has a DJ at the beginning. It's like an opening act somewhere like that.
No, but I don't go to concerts.
Okay, use your imagination. Sometimes they're bands. So a friend of mine got to open for Journey. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
He had to submit his mix. Not submit the songs he was going to play that day live. He had to submit his mix. They absolutely do not want you playing. They want you to appear that you're playing. That's the job. And a lot of that is done that way. So
I could imagine so, yeah.
It's an illusion. So again, the mixing the music, I'm not saying you need to fall on the software and rely on it. I'm just saying people will. and I'm thinking
Oh,
there
100%. I know people are going to.
that don't have that skill that are going to use that. That's going to up their worth because it gives them something they never even had before. But if you, as a person who has that, falls onto that like a crutch, that is going to take away from yours 100%. But if you find a balance and a reason, or maybe a certain night, maybe it's hard to say. Like, you know as well as I do, every gig's different.
So what you're saying is I'm going to put this stuff in the software and then I'm going to turn the knobs, but my controller's not actually going to be turned on. Got it.
That happens a lot. I was
Yeah.
joking the other day. I said if I created my own hardware, it would be one that if you touched the knob more than once without actually doing something, it would both shock you and send out a triple horn.
How much
You gotta touch the knob, do something. Just don't go. You're a poser. Sorry, I'm opinionated. I shouldn't be that opinionated. I didn't even have any caffeine today. I never had caffeine.
What were you drinking?
Diet Pepsi.
That has caffeine in it.
It has a little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
So there you go. You got some.
I got some. I was out of the house today too, so maybe being out in the fresh air's messed with my brain.
Oh yeah, there you go. So MJ, you're still using virtual as your main
Yes.
play. Has and I haven't used it for a couple of weeks. And the word was from one of the virtual guys that they were going to get the Apple Music functioning with it. Have they gotten that yet, or have you seen it?
No, yeah, that was the thing that I was kind of curious after. I almost said it almost after Ableton got it. After Serato got it, I didn't know if that was going to be like an exclusive deal where Virtual couldn't get it. So I just did an update on the studio computer today, and I read down all the updates, and that was not one of the ones written on the update.
Yet. Okay.
Yeah. So like I have friends that like it in Serato, but they don't like it. Like some people are liking it because it gives them access to stuff they're already paying for. You know, if they're already paying for that, you know, it gives them access, but it doesn't allow you to use stems or anything like that.
Right.
And you have to be online. You can't offline any music whatsoever. With the Apple, you can do some with Beat Source and Beat whatever the other Beat one is. Beat Source and Beat.
Beat Source and Title?
No, Beats. There's two. Beat Source is a lot of EDM, and the other one is Beat something. Same company, but it's pop music. So somebody throw it in the chat. Beat Source and Beat something. But those will let you for a certain Beatport. Beatport is more the is it Beatport's pop? Yeah. But those you can offline. I think it's up to 1,000 songs. Like I said, with virtual in the iDJ pool, will let you offline unlimited, but you just have to log on once a month to show that you're still subscribed. But things like the Apple and for me, my version of that is Deezer, which is the same as Spotify. You have to be online. You can't be offline at all. You can't offline songs from it. I think I can do stems with Deezer. I'm not sure. But if I'm recording my set, it will literally stop. Same with Apple. If you're recording your set, it will stop the recording while that song's playing. And as soon as you go to the next song that you own, it will continue to record.
Come back again. Wow.
Yeah, it prevents you. I mean, if you're not going to be able to offload it or offline it,
converting
you know, that makes sense. It would be the workaround. But man, that would be, I don't know. There's some definite limitations there that I wasn't realizing within that. Just the two main ones that you hit on with like not being able to offline it. I don't know, like that right there, I think is my biggest, you know, hiccup. I think with using a lot of these services. But then the other one, like, you know, I like to record my mixes. I like to potentially put them up, and it's like, you know, if you're using it for one-offs, that's one thing. But if you're using it for, you know, more frequency, because there's a lot of reliability with it.
The only other thing you can do is on your aux out, have a MP3 recorder of some sort. You know, which I know some people, they do that with a secondary computer that they'll set there and record their sets that way. But it's becoming more normal to have that. I ran into a guy at the casino who's a DJ, and he handed me his card, real basic card, didn't even have like a website on it. It was just, you know, his phone number and stuff. And he's like, "Where do you get your music from?" And I was telling him a couple services I download from, and I said I also do a few of the streaming services. He's like, "Oh, I get everything from Tidal." His entire DJ job is built around Tidal, so he couldn't take a job. How much can Tidal? Can you on Serato? Can you? I don't know if you can offline title or you're limited because some of them limit you to how many you can offload.
Oh.
But there's quite a few. I know, like I said, a friend of mine does event nights down at WVU, and they'll have some of the college kids that want to come in, and the first thing they'll say is, what's the Wi-Fi password? And they're like, we don't have Wi-Fi here. And they're like, what do you mean you have Wi-Fi? I'm like, we don't have Wi-Fi here. And they're like, well, how am I supposed to play? And like, what do you mean how are you supposed to play? Because I play everything offline. So there's a generation, and the guy that I talked with was like my age. So you're seeing lots of people instead of like we did spent years curating a library. They're out there just streaming it. Like I said, it's a shortened. It's DJs are in abundance, so you have to figure out how to set yourself aside right now. You can't complain that everyone's a DJ because it's just what it is. There's an abundance. Whether you're a photographer, everybody's that owns a camera is a photographer now. That's just part of the business. So, but a lot of people are embracing that. I use it as just for me, it's a one-off. It's if I'm somewhere and somebody wants to hear something and I don't have it, or if I have a weird version, I know I need to play the album version, that sort of thing. That's what it's there for me. Is just having the song that I don't have that I need it. And right now, like one day, it was a joke. I was at a bar and they wanted to hear a certain Nickelback song, and I ain't got no Nickelback, but like one song. But I knew that song would work at that bar. I knew it would. And because I was able to stream, I hit the song and the whole place just starts pounding on the table, singing along. And it's that sort of thing. The one-offs.
Were you in Canada?
Me?
Because I thought that was the only place that ever liked Nickelback was Canada.
I don't know. This one, it was a college bar. They were all college kids. But they asked for that, and I'm like, I know that would go off really well here. And I'm like, I don't have that. And I just went and grabbed it. And it was that's why I say, or if you're at somewhere at an event and somebody goes, it's my wife and I's 50th wedding anniversary. If you played this song, it would meant the world to us. And that you have the crowds. If you're doing a 50, someone just is there and you're like, oh, it's so and so's wedding, and you're pulling at the heartstrings of everybody else. And if you have that song, you've just become popular to everybody there. So it's tools. That's why I look at a lot of this as just tools of the trade.
And I think that is in discussion with not so much in our industry, but at the post office, I talk to a lot of my 70 or 80-year-olds, which is, talking to them about AI. But it's amazing. They, in many cases, have an idea of what it is. And as we kind of alluded to in the last show a little bit, one of the fears, though, that they do have is how much information is out there and how much these tools can pull. But yet, in many ways, the tool becomes the sharpest when it is fed the information that can help it adjust, contour, fit the needs of the customer or needs of the audience or whatever. It's like a double-edged sword. People are afraid of it, but yet when they see what it can do, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome.
Back in the day in the hackers world, when you needed information from someone, they called it social hacking. So you're interacting with a human being and you're kind of using the AI to social hack the connection, to bring a better connection with you. Like you said, changing some things and doing some things. And it's, again, it all depends. You can do bad things with a hammer. You can do great things with a hammer. The same with this stuff. Like I said, I just see it as ways that I can increase what I'm doing or do it better or maybe do it a little bit easier. I think with us in our business, if we can find a tool that lets us, because I'm telling you, I still tell young DJs, you as a person with that audience, I don't care if you never talk on a mic. If you're able to connect personally with them somehow, you're going to be popular and you're going to be asked back. Simple as that. So I think there's a lot of that if your tool allows you, if you're a person that you're so focused, you forget the crowd and you have something that helps you lighten your focus on the tech and go to the people, that's a big deal.
I will say that the one thing though, and this comes from the educator standpoint in me. So
and that's where I wanted to go next is, yes, let's talk about it.
The whole thing on the whole. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah. So this has become as a pet peeve of mine. So as much as I love AI and the things that it's capable of doing and the things that I've been able to even use it for within my own business and my own personal life, it bothers me to a degree because when there are students out there, and my son has friends that do this, and he better not be one of them, but where they are not even taking the time to understand what it is that they're trying to put into the AI search engine. So they would get a prompt, a math problem, whatever might be the case, and they'll take a picture. The AI will spit it out and give an answer. Now, majority of the time, it's usually right. However, it's not all the time. But I think what bothers me is what they then feed back is the prompt itself, like the evidence that they didn't even read it to take out the words that said ChatGPT says dot 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 dot. Right? So when you're using AI, so from an educator standpoint, it bothers me when you don't have the basic understanding that what it is giving you is not a good idea, right? Like to not stop and go, does this idea, whatever it might be, whether it's for your business or personal life or whatever, does this idea make legitimate sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is this really a good idea? You know, kind of like the same idea. We wouldn't brainstorm something the night before an event and decide to throw it in for the first time ever without ever practicing, without ever thinking about it, without ever trying it. At least I would hope not.
I was going to say, Dan,
To somebody's event.
have you met DJs?
Okay, fair enough. So we shouldn't do those
There you
things,
go.
but I feel like sometimes with the AI, there's more of a false reliance. Like you wouldn't think, okay, if I wouldn't think about doing that myself because it's coming from me. But AI said I'm going to do it. It's got to be perfect. It's going to work.
Like the old days. Older kid told me it was okay.
Yeah.
This was the example I was shown when it comes to AI, because education is a big part of what they're talking about, is that you are no longer, as an educator, teaching how to do something. You're teaching the context of how to do it. So 7 minus 5 and 5 minus 7 are two different problems with two different answers. So if you're taking 5 from 7 is different than taking 7 from 5. And the context of AI can give you that number. And either direction, technically the number's right, but which is the context that it is set in. And it's talking about AI teaching the next generation that as you use these tools, how you use them, the context that you're using them in matters. And that's what you have to know before you start feeding the information in.
And that's where I think, though, education, I've often said this, and that AI, I feel, will create the greatest divide within our educational system that we've seen in years, because you will have students that are basically just looking to get an answer, who won't care. They'll take a picture, get it spit out, and they'll move on. They'll get out of school and go, I don't even know how to blow my nose, right? Like they're gonna have no, and then you're gonna have the other ones who are going to use it, but then take that context idea, take the idea and be able to expand upon it, or to use it to, you know, free up the processes within their own brain to do more, right? Like let that you run the crunch the numbers and all the other kind of stuff, and let their brain do more. And I think that it's going to create that gap. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people in the middle. You're gonna have the ones that are gonna, because I've seen so many, and I'll use this as an example. There have been within the math field. There have been apps for your phone that you could scan an answer and it would spit it out to you. And we would see that in a certain percent. We'll say maybe 15% of our kids would try and do something like that. Now we're getting 60% of our students that are using AI, and it's evident. So it's become more of a commonplace, and so I think that's going to create that bigger separation. Wow, we were not going to talk about education tonight, but
No, that's an interesting spot, because there's a lot of discussion. Even tonight on the news, one of the lead stories was talking about there's a group of kids who are really starting to work towards more of a vocational type skills and task sets. And even watching some of my children, how they have evolved with the, there's some information I just don't need to know because I can just ask. I can ask the phone, and I can go and do other things. And in some of those cases, some of the kids that they were interviewing tonight were kids who looked at, I just have to ask the phone. Well, do you know the wherewithal behind it? No, but I'm going to get myself a job and doing this, and I'll be, grinding lug nuts or whatever, creating custom lug nuts for companies and doing some engineering things, and I'll be making, high five figures out of high school. I'm good.
I want to ask your thoughts on this. When I was growing up, the computer language was BASIC, and further into college and high school it was like COBOL and stuff like that. Do you think we'll see high school courses or college courses on prompt writing? Not a major, but courses on prompt writing for AI.
I would initially I would correlate it to similar to how kids were learning how to become influencers on TikTok and different places like that, because it wasn't so much I took a course on and learning how to be a social media person. There really nothing like that existed. It was basically watch and repeat and try your own spin on it and that type of thing. Now that's how I would say that, but then they're now introducing courses. My daughter, who's going for meteorology, she was just talking about they have a minor that is now on social media and how to be a social media influencer. So the idea is, yes, there could be down the road is how to utilize AI with the proper prompts, or to be thinking in that term.
The most efficient, because if you're doing a job and part of your job is to use AI to generate something, and if you're better at prompting it to get the response quicker, that you could then move on with the next part of your job. That's why I think, because as a person, if you go in my print on demand thing, there are a lot of shirts in there that I designed with AI, and I can't begin to tell you how long I had to keep prompting and prompting and prompting and prompting and prompting until I kind of got what I wanted. So once you learn how to do that, I think it's a language of the future.
I don't think it'll be to the point of having a full course on it, but what I could see is at least at the high school setting, I could see it becoming a portion or a unit that is taught in the beginning that then is utilized throughout the end of the year or throughout the rest of the year. So that way it kind of, okay, you get to this level of the course, and this is the way we need to design the prompts that are going to give us what we're looking for that you can then use. That's not going to give you an answer that is for a course that's 6 years from now. It's going to give you something that's going to be for now. I could see it more along those lines. And again, basically from the high school standpoint, because I mean, if you were to really cover all the standards that are supposed to be taught in a K-12 education, it would take you 15 or 16 years, not 12. So we don't have the time to cover them as they are.
Faster.
Huh?
So with AI, maybe it'll be faster. I don't know.
Maybe.
So, dear ChatGPT, generate a list of songs that I can play for a wedding dance floor in Pennsylvania to get primarily 20 to 28-year-old girls on the floor, and then followed up with something that would get their boyfriends on the floor, and then their grandparents, and then hold them there for 30 minutes. And if you learned how to prompt that, because as a DJ, you're thinking through things that way. What can I play? What can I play next? What did I play last time? I tried this last time. Let's try it again. Okay, this didn't work 100% of the time. And that's why I think the prompting is going to be something that you learn how to prompt, like especially as the prompts are going to get more complex. It's not going to be prompting a picture for a shirt like I was. You're prompting an entire video scene. I want to create a scene that starts with Dan walking in and pulling an M16 over his shoulder and said, "I told you I'll be back," and you're just you're prompting an entire scene. Come on, Dan, say it. I told you I'll be back.
So your list of songs you were wanting there, MJ, Espresso from Sabrina Carpenter, Good Luck Babe from Chappell Cruel Summer, Paint the Town Red, Greedy Street. And then if we wanted to go to the ones who are more the TikTok crowd, 1-2, Buckle My Shoe, Collide, Ski. Okay, Bongos, and Boy's a Liar Part 2. But if you want some girl anthems that you want some sing-alongs, Truth Hurts, Before He Cheats, No Scrubs, Shallow, Man, I Feel Like a Woman. Actually, some of those I've used in that.
I have a really upbeat version of Shallow. That
Yeah.
when that movie was out, man, I could get a crowd singing with that.
Yeah, you'd have to. Wedding.
But yeah, like
yeah.
I said, the people out there who are selling their playlists on the different, generated list, or if you go to, an Apple thing and they're there, that's the beginning of it. If you don't think that all these other places are looking at these lists, taking these lists and adding it to their algorithm, that someday they're going to have a program that spits out all of this stuff we're doing is already being absorbed by these things. So you can hide. I have my playlist. I have my songs that are secret, and I have 12 different ways to get that song the same minute you did. Right? Now I mix it live. I don't have. I forget you. I'll just add if I'm doing this beat with this. I can do that live now. I got stems. I don't know. I just think it's an interesting thing. Because again, when we started 20 years ago, like I said in the last video, it was a song, a mix, a sound, a mix, a sound. That's all we had to work with. And now there's so many layers to that. There's a lot involved now, I think. Here's a question to ask you guys. As pace has changed with this technology, when you guys were doing weddings in your early days, was the pace of the evening that you set for that reception different than the pace of the evening that you're setting now at events?
Oh, hugely different, I would say. Because the pace that we would have set 20 years ago, 25 years ago, was a much slower pace. We were bringing crowds along much slower than we do today. It was commonly accepted that the party wasn't going to get started till 10 o'clock. The dance would get started at 8 o'clock, but the people would be, whether they were drinking, whether they were socializing outside or whatever. Most of our weddings at that time would go till 1 in the morning because no one would start dancing till 10:30. Even though in any case I'm using a similar format to what I'm doing today, it's just the people weren't there. So you would be with a kind of a toned down thing, and then off you go. Today it's a different story. Basically, I would like to think it's not because I'm playing music differently, because we would try then to go all out and right away with some of the big guns, and they would flop. Today, you almost be, as soon as the spotlight dances are over, it's dropping some of the big crowd favorites because they're either ready to go or they're going to be, ready to go within a few minutes at most.
Dan, I see a perplexed look on your face.
Yeah, because I've been trying to think kind of how to really look at that. So I've never had the situation that John has. Our weddings here typically are done by 10. Maybe you'd get an 11 o'clock, but it's a lot of restrictions from the venues. The ones that are in hotels, right? Like they can't because the guests, right? And the ones that are out in the boondocks, so you got neighbors, right? So we've never had like late events in that standpoint. So I feel like there's always been kind of that, go time, if you will, from the get-go. But I will say, like, what used to be, or what maybe has kind of sped the pace up a little bit, has been how we've handled like cocktails and dinner. Where before that was very much more of a relaxed time. Now it's more of an upbeat type of feel but I attribute that more to the fact that the guests are there from ceremony through. So it's not like they're coming into the room and need a relaxed place to come into. They've already had that with the ceremony. So they're looking for something a little bit more upbeat. So I would attribute it more to that, I think, than anything else. But I will say, like, there's been other things that have changed due to attention spans. The fact that we're mixing faster
Right.
and trying to switch up the songs that we have. But I see that more from the attention span aspect than the software and AI aspect.
that's what I was kind of meaning is AI kind of speeds things up. I'm wondering if it, it's affecting us. It's affecting, I think, the people in general as an attention span. But I'm wondering, like, that's why I asked that as an event, because you are as a DJ kind of setting the pace in a way of the whole night. You're working with the dinner people, you're working with the videographers, the first dance, all that kind of stuff. So I was just wondering if that changed, that kind of stuff is also affecting that part of your life. And
Well,
that's something you can't learn from an AI. How fast should I pace the night?
right. I think the one thing that would make a big difference here is if we think about where I'll take the negative side to the AI, and I'm going to view it as a negative, where somebody's not going to take the time to look up an answer. They're just going to ask for an answer.
Mhm.
I think what that's going to lead to is going to be more of an impatience with anything that doesn't fit within the scope of somebody having a good time, right? Like you play a song that doesn't hit, you're going to have to get out of it quick because their patience for what's there is not going to be the same because they're used to, if I don't like this, I can fix it
Mm-hmm.
by asking. So I could see that as kind of maybe a correlation between the two. Um, yeah,
Hmm.
speculation, just guessing off the top of my head.
Thing
But
that
I
I
th-
like hanging out
5 years, we'll talk about it and see what
but
happens.
I think one of the areas,
Holograms.
when a person has the access to a music acceptable AI system like just ChatGPT, where you can throw a song in and hey, give me 5 songs that could follow this up type of a thing. I think it's that taking that stress off the having to think about okay, I'm trying to think 4 or 5 songs down the road here. Well, I'm out 2 songs, and what should I follow it up with? And sometimes it's tough to think of what should be the 4th song in this thing, because I'm listening to song 1, and I know song 2 can go with song 1 because they're close enough, and I can headphones and visual. Song 3 gets to be a little sketchier because it's farther out and I can't really listen to it as long or put it. And then I could see where that could become a tool that would allow a person to save some of that brain energy, and maybe that's used for engaging of the crowd, or watching the crowd a little bit more intently to see what's going on, instead of sitting there and thinking, okay, what am I going to follow this up with? And I'm, yes, I'm watching the crowd, I'm watching the room, but I'm not really focused on that because I'm kind of watching and thinking about other things instead of, the music's doing its thing. I've got the next songs up, and I can just say, hey, wait a second, what's going on over there with Uncle Fred? Uncle Fred's doing something weird. I might have missed Uncle Fred's doing something weird thing if I would have been just totally,
Yeah.
brain energy just on pulling songs.
I think it will also kind of to that point put more of a focus on for those of us that do the private event industry. I'm going to kind of lump it in there, not just weddings, but that I think is going to put more of a focus on some of the MC aspect of what we do too, because right, one, as the software makes it easier and easier to mix, how are you going to set yourself apart is going to be that mic work. But then also exactly what John says, like if I don't have to think about mixing this song and when I'm going to bring this song in and how that's going to go and what's the next especially in a school environment. Oh my gosh, proms are insane sometimes for that. But yet they're the ones that need the most mic work. Like if I can have this do this and I can do this, it's going to be a little bit more beneficial and can be helpful in that aspect too.
That's what my thought of it was. Is it just being a tool? Because if there's nights when you need to do the extra mic, it gives you freedom of that. But if there's nights where, it's another tool. Is it is it your breaker bar or your breaker bar extension? You don't always want to use the breaker bar extension, but you want it. It's like that one old farmer I used to help out. If it doesn't work, hit it with a hammer. If it still don't work, get a bigger hammer.
I think I met him. I might have worked with him at one time. My goodness,
You
throwing
guys worked with
bales.
my dad?
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Yeah, they all had that. My dad had a giant crescent wrench in the tractor toolbox. I mean, it was huge. And there are times it was used as a crescent. I talked about it in my book, and there's times it was used as to hammer. He couldn't find his hammer, and he had to put a steeple in the fence. It was a hammer, or it was a pry bar on the end of something else, or they're all tools. You may
Yeah.
use them differently, you know. You may be able to mix perfectly, but if that helps you pick a different song, the AI helps you pick it, get out of your rut of playing the same songs in the same order, which I think we're all guilty of that. If it helps you with that, there's your use for it. You
Yeah,
don't have
because
to use it the same.
what I like to do is every once in a while, I kind of start, in the middle, and then I work my way that way and that way, and then sometimes I just play right on through because that's really the way it was meant to be. I was gonna say, just the way it was meant to
You know
be.
what I need right
Yeah,
now, Dan? I need
I'm just gonna say he's brought up two topics while you've been here that he doesn't when it's Cubby and myself. Well, a little bit with that last one, but not as often. So it's the nostalgia. You know what? You look thirsty. That's probably what it was. He was looking out for you.
because he didn't bring it up when him and I are on, and I'm like, man, my voice, I need something.
He was looking forward to it. He's like,
Heaven forbid we drink just because we're thirsty
yeah,
in this
it's
show.
like we gotta be a little dehydrated going to the show because you never know how often I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah.
Oh,
That's the thing I said. It's that I've always liked about this show is the fact that we here doing this, and I think even with the guys in the chill room afterwards, get to discuss stuff that has to do with our occupation and the stuff that we do that we really can't discuss with other people because they're going to look at us and go, "What? You spent time thinking about that?" Yeah. What?
quite a bit, yeah, quite a bit. And Day wins the comment section tonight because he played a really good song at the request of the bride, and she's got to be the most awesome bride ever. I'm just saying.
But he didn't say that it worked for the crowd. Just because the bride requested it does not mean that it worked.
I'm sure it did. I am sure it did. Confidence.
Hey, there's a lot of artists out there that would not make a dance floor do anything and he would. So he's not down as much as we joke about this. He's not down on my list of known plays.
I will say also, I was this close to playing it myself this weekend because I had a crowd that was digging some 80s, and I was like, and I actually had Power of Love about ready to go, and then I talked myself out of it. So, and there was day and night, or Day said it was the Power of Love during dinner.
Man, you seriously could have you could have had an Instagram moment, a TikTok moment. Then played that song and the crowd just goes.
And it
could have
could have been famous.
That's right.
Could have.
So close.
I could have.
So close.
But I was too busy making sure that the tent didn't blow away.
Well, there is that too. There is that. There was some weather.
Yeah, that's something that has been an issue for you for a lot of outdoor DJs this year, hasn't it?
I don't know. This is my first wedding. It was out, and we had like there. I'll send you guys a picture later, but I actually took a picture of the one pop-up tent and what it looked like after the wind came through, because one will never be able to be used other than
no,
for the scrapyard.
Oh boy. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, I know what that's like, walking into a venue from the car.
Yeah, you're suffering as you're going into a nice, fully climate-controlled facility. Yeah. Okay. And then while we're sweating away in the middle of summer and in the middle of hay,
that's the thing that I don't miss. Occasionally, I will get called to do some outdoor parties here, and I think I did 4th of July at a place a couple summers ago, and it was one of those really hot days, and it was like, man, the guys who have to dress up in it, because I was like 4th of July, I got shorts on and stuff, but the guys who have to wear suits for weddings, man, that should be hazard pay.
There's
at least for me, because I get hot real easy.
Yeah,
so.
there's times it should definitely.
Some people pay for a sauna. We get paid to be in the sauna, so it works.
Win or something. DJNTV.com/chill. Next, the chill room is going to be active tonight. We got a lot of good folks that are headed there from our chat room, and thank you for being with us tonight. Seeing a lot of names there tonight that have been with us for a lot of years, and many of these folks, MJ, were with us when you were with us on a regular basis, so they've appreciated seeing you here tonight with us.
Back 10 years ago when I was in my late 20s.
Yeah, exactly. When we were just bringing you into the DJ profession at that time and explaining, what the what they meant by some of the music. It was crazy times indeed.
I love Dan's eyebrow on that one.
There's that. Let's see. Tomorrow night, Ben Stowe is off for a little bit, so tomorrow night we're going to have another kind of a interview gab session tomorrow at 8 o'clock Eastern with Bill Lage. Haven't talked to him in a while, so he'll be with, and we'll be catching up with him. And then we'll have probably a best of Ben Stowe after that, and the children will be after that. And yeah, next week it's summer, kickoff to summer already. So yeah, we'll have a little here and there as we go along, but we'll be putting more information about what things will look like as we get into the summer months. So, Dan, let's wrap it up and send him to the chill room.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Hopefully you had fun. Hopefully you're not, thinking the Terminator is coming back tomorrow, but we do appreciate you. And thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great one, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.